Welcome back. You know, the way we consume entertainment is also changing the economic landscape in the entertainment industry. We're back with Metro West Daily News film critic Bob Tremblay and Emerson College Associate Professor Claire Andrade Watkins. We made several references in the first segment about how movies get greenlighted. And Claire, you wanted to expound a little bit on that. The independent film movement. The
independent film movement. I mean, for those of us who make movies and in the industry, we're keenly watching what's happening behind the scenes, particularly from Emerson. We are about craft. And you're dealing with consummate professionals, also the highly trained British, and that connection between the British independent black community and the black American film community has been long-standing. But what is really kind of resonating for a lot of us is the cinematographer Bradford Young, and not just his work, but that he's part of a legacy.
Selma's cinematographer,
Bradford Young,
who also should have received a nomination.
But you know, the thing that I think Spike said in a news article that I read, that, you know, Hollywood is a particular form of validation, but what really matters is that it's going to be a classic 25 years from now. And that the different digital platforms are going to give us a lot more access than we had when Hollywood was the only show in town. But what you're seeing is a generation of filmmakers who incubate at Howard University. The cinematographers, legendary ones, Spike Lee, got Ernie Dickerson from there. It's under Haile Gerima, who's one of the fathers of African cinema, but also one of the major tentpoles for the diaspora. They're creating a culture of high-quality professionals.
doing it differently, not necessarily waiting on Hollywood for that stamp of approval.
Like, okay, and that's what Spike is saying. And they all are pulling from the same people, and that Howard in the industry is being recognized for all of these Helmers that are being turned out that are incredible.
And you brought up Spike Lee. You brought up Spike Lee.
And Ernie Dickerson came from that.
Bob, you wanted to say something about the directors lack of directors of color winning at the Oscars.
The fact that Spike Lee has not even been nominated for Best Director. He's been nominated for documentary and for screenplay for Do the Right Thing is an outrage. There've only been 3 black directors nominated, John Singleton, Lee Daniels, and Steve McQueen. None have won. They've only been 4 women nominees, Linda Wertmuller, Jane Campion,
but you were saying that you were saying that the 3 women were nominated, finally the 4th one won. You're saying 3 blacks have been nominated for Best Director, and based on your theory, the next time a black director
I think, you know, in basketball,
it's going to be the cringe moment, not because of, but in spite of.
It's going to be like in basketball. It's a makeup call. Somebody gets fouled, it's a horrible call, and they call the foul to the next guy, even though it's not right. It's called a makeup call. I'll be shocked if next year there are not. If there's another Oscar next year where there's not a lot of people of color nominated, I will be shocked out of my mind.
Eat your hat or melt the snow.
It may not be right. It may not, it may not be right, but it's just the way the politics work.
But there's always been also the perception that black people didn't go to the theater, and now there's this demographic of a black audience and we've proven that that is a false premise.
Yes.
And the notion of box office, both the industry is changing. The theatric distribution model. There are new digital platforms. So you're not beholden to a particular formula of quantifiable audience.
Now, Chris Rock produced Top 5 on his own. That was a huge box office hit, right?
Yeah, and so they're not one-offs anymore. But where money is, the industry is going to follow. And the demographic is rising. They're saying they're quantifying and counting the money of Latinos and blacks. So that is there. There are new software, there are new apps. There are many different ways of viewing on a lot of platforms. And that's going to give all the independents, not just the black ones or the independents who aren't Hollywood financed, a lot more access to global markets and audiences. And I think that's the bigger green light.
And it's interesting, you were discussing how films get greenlit. And I was talking at an event with Robert Zemeckis, the Oscar-winning director of Forrest Gump, and I asked him, so what's your next movie? And he says, well, I can't get it made. And I'm going, I find that rather hard to believe. Well, maybe you need someone attached to it that will help you get it made, because it's all about attachments. I said, who do you have attached to the film? He says, Tom Hanks. And he says, Robert Zemeckis, you can't get a movie made with, can't get a movie made, you can't get a movie made with Tom Hanks. What's going on here? And I virtually guarantee you the subject matter of that film, didn't ask him, but would be not your typical teenage movie that fits, the easy peg. found footage movies. They're easy to. Well, Hollywood goes to the younger audience anyway.
But it illustrates that if Zemeckis can't get it done with Hanks, where do people of color stand in terms of getting the movies?
Exactly.
That's the change, the key change that's happening now. We're dealing like with almost a renaissance, a revisionist history that Selma is opening a new chapter, both in terms of the work is going to continue to get made. Hollywood no longer, green light, nice, but it doesn't mean it won't happen.
Okay.
Distribution,
That is
nice,
that's
doesn't mean it won't happen.
That's a point on
That's
which
a big one.
we'll have to end. Claire and Bob, you have given us a lot to think about as we watch the Academy Awards this evening.
And at
Thank
the
you
end of
so
the
much.
day, it's about the work.
Okay,
And
be
this is
sure to
good
watch
work.
the Oscars tonight right here on WCVB and learn more about everything that we featured on our program by logging on to our page at WCVB.com. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.